Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. We've got a great show for you today. Kevin Durant is expected to make his debut as a Sun tonight against the Hornets. We'll give you our thoughts there and preview that game. Plus, we've got a prop master on the show today, giving out top props for the Wednesday NBA slate. And of course, you know it, you've got some Mox Locks coming your way. But first, let's welcome in the prop master himself, our guest, Munaf Manji from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Munaf, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to come back on your show, ready to talk some NBA. I can't believe NFL. The dust has finally settled on the NFL, right?
It has, but now we're getting into free agency, so that's a
Yeah.
that's a fun topic to talk about. But yes, the dust has finally settled on the NFL. A depressing season for me in the end, but I'm glad that the Eagles lost. Sorry, Sean Green, but
Not sorry.
go Chiefs. Yeah, not so sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. All right, Munaf, you are a co-host for SGPN's NBA podcast, also the Propcast. So I want to ask you, because I feel like betting on props, there's usually a different process with props than there is just game-sided bets. So what is your process when looking into these props? Is there certain criteria that you're looking for? Any sites that you find useful or any kind of strategy?
Yeah, I think that prop betting has become a little more mainstream, especially over the last couple of years, right? I think it's a really fun market to get into because sometimes we want to root for our favorite players, and if they're hopefully going to have a good night, if they don't have a good night, so it's always fun digging into the player props. So kind of, I guess, pulling the curtain back a little bit, what I kind of like to do when I'm looking at player props is, especially for NBA, is looking at teams that are really struggling from a certain area, meaning that, hey, is their 3-point defense bad? Is it good? How many points they're allowing inside the paint? Do they give up a lot of rebounds? And a great website, and you could just intertwine it, is nba.com/stats is just an amazing website to use when it comes to team stats, player stats, and you can filter it in any which way that you want. And it's a great tool. You can filter it by last 3 games, 5 games, 10 games for the season long. So it really breaks it down. And there's just so many different categories. I would really recommend that if you haven't already, for prop bet or especially for the NBA, take some time, check out nba.com/stats. It's an amazing tool to use for prop betting.
And then I know that you've mentioned this before, and it's something that I use, StatMuse, because I feel like you could
Yes.
look up exact matchups. You could be like, how does Steph Curry do against the Nets? How many
Mhm.
3-pointers does Steph Curry get? Whatever it is. Like, I find that to be such a fun. And now sometimes it doesn't know what you're asking, and it gives the LeBron like what,
Yeah.
which I also think is kind of funny. But for NBA for sure, but also for football, I feel like StatMuse is a really good one for props as well.
100% agree. That's the second website that I have bookmarked when I do player props, right? Like you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head that you can split in, hey, Steph Curry versus the Blazers game log, just bring up in his career how he's done against that team. You can even filter it down if you just want to put in this season. It'll just break it down for how many times they played each other this season, and you'll find some interesting things. And I know you and I have even talked about it during the football season with George Kittle. We talked about his receptions and yardage and things like that. So it's really good for baseball, NHL, NBA, like we're talking about as well. StatMuse, yeah, number 2 on my list for sure.
And so also, if you're looking for trends, I feel like sgpn.com is you guys always list out a lot of trends, whether it's NFL or NBA as well. If I want to just look at a matchup, I can see pretty much every trend that would be useful to me on the website. Do you also write for the website, or you just mostly podcast?
I started maybe, what is this, 2023, about 3 years ago. I started writing for the website. It was more stats based and things like that. Obviously, we talked about the ref report on a prior show that we did. I still do that, but yeah, I still do some writing.
The NBA as well?
No, not yet.
A little harder.
Yeah. I think that one's a little harder because we have games like every single day, but that information is out there for referee stats and things like that. Just because the NFL is only 3 times a week with Thursday night football, Sunday, and then Monday, right? It was just easier to write, but. Yeah, we do trends on the website. I know the guys put out, I think I was looking at it yesterday for college basketball with March Madness conference tournament
Yeah.
starting, NBA trends as well. So it's a really helpful tool, whether you're doing for side total or money line bets or even player props like we're talking about. So yeah, I mean, go over to the website, check it out, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. A lot of great stuff happening around the website.
All right, so that is how we are going to bet our props today. Munaf, it's time now to get into the Mox thought. I'm so curious about how you feel about this one. So Kevin Durant is expected to make his debut for the Suns tonight in Charlotte. The 13-time NBA All-Star, 2 times Finals MVP, was averaging nearly 30.7 rebounds, 5 assists in 39 games before his injury. So I'm curious what you expect from KD tonight and for the Suns moving forward. Obviously, the the odds boards for them to win the NBA title, they're number 2 plus 450, just behind the Celtics. Is this team an actual contender for the NBA title, and what do you expect from Durant tonight?
Yeah, I think Coach Monty Williams already came out and said that he's going to be playing limited minutes. So maybe look for around 20 to 25 minutes would be my guess. Obviously, when you're coming back from MCL sprain, you kind of want to ease your way back in. And again, it's not only coming back from an injury, but it's the first time with a new team, right? Since the trade from the Brooklyn Nets over to the Phoenix Suns, right? So, do I expect rust from KD? Yeah. I mean, when you haven't played a month plus, there'll be some rust. And again, playing with new teammates. There'll be an adjustment period. I'm thinking maybe about 5 to 7 games where it takes for him, number one, to get up to game speed and get acclimated with his new teammates. But I mean, you mentioned it, Katie. The guy was averaging 30 plus points a night when he was with the Brooklyn Nets, right? He's one of the best scorers we've seen in NBA history. I mean, you're very familiar with it when he was with your Golden State Warriors as well, when he won those titles.
We miss him.
But you still got it done last season without him, so I don't think you really needed him.
We don't
But
need him, but man, it was good with him.
oh yeah, 100%. It was funny because at the beginning of this season, there was rumors of where he did make the trade request from the Brooklyn Nets. One of their teams was Phoenix Suns that he wanted to go to. It just didn't happen at the beginning of the season. And for the Phoenix Suns, they were in the NBA Finals not too long ago against the Milwaukee Bucks, right? And we've talked about this on the NBA Gambling Podcast. Is that the Phoenix Suns probably needed one more player, and we said this coming off the bench to kind of give him that extra boost that they needed. Lo and behold, they go out and get Kevin Durant, and you pair him with a guy like Devin Booker, Hall of Fame point guard Chris Paul. I think rightfully so, they should be the number 2 favorite. I think they do come out of the West this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, well, whatever. I say this on every show. Don't count the Warriors out, right?
Of
If they
course
get
not. You can't.
healthy,
Yeah.
we make it too. But yeah, it is hard to look at their big 3 and think that they're not a serious contender. I've been asking all of our basketball analysts this when they come on the show. What do you think happened in Brooklyn? I mean, Brooklyn basically just blew itself up. They were supposed to be this big scary team. It never ended up working out. I believe the farthest that they got was in the second round in the playoffs, when having those big 3 and moving things around. Is it management? Is it culture? Was it Kyrie Irving? Like, what do you think happened in Brooklyn?
I think it's a combination of all the three things that you just mentioned there, right? I know with what was it, a couple seasons ago with the whole vaccine mandate that he didn't want to get the vaccine and it was required, and that's a personal choice, right? We're not here to talk about that, but I think more so what you talked about is
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it really is the front office because from what I read, and again, we wish we were flies on the wall when they were talking about the contract negotiations with Kyrie and Brooklyn. I think the people that kind of forget that he wanted to be in Brooklyn, like he was ready to sign a contract extension with Brooklyn and stay with his guy Kevin Durant in Brooklyn and try to bring championships there. But I think there were stipulations in the contract that said that Kyrie had to play X amount of games and that a bonus would be triggered if they had to win an NBA championship, is what it's pretty much was saying for that guaranteed money that you kind of see for player contracts, whether it's NBA, whether it's NFL, right? So I think that there was a disconnect with the front office with Kyrie that led to his trade request. And then lo and behold, I said this on our pod, is that don't be surprised if Kevin Durant requests a trade as well. So, it didn't work out for them. They got some assets back in the trade with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, and it's new life now in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, so I read an article today from Bill Ryder over at CBS. And so speaking of another big player, front office kind of drama, Trae Young seems to be a problem child with the Hawks. At least that's what's being reported right now. I read about a divided locker room, a serious disconnection between Young and many, if not all of his teammates, that he's not beloved. He fails to lead or understand or even care to understand what's required of him as a leader on this team, and that unless that's fixed, they're really never going to win a title. So I was curious what you think about this, and if Quinn Snyder can fix him and this team.
It's funny, like when you see a superstar player that's well, I think it was his like fifth or sixth season, maybe
Yeah,
already on his
yeah,
third head coach. I think you kind of got to
yeah,
throw up some red flags, right?
yeah.
Um, we've heard about the disconnect between him and John Collins as well. And John
Mhm.
Collins' name has been in trade rumors over the last two seasons. It just didn't transpire for the Atlanta Hawks. But I think you're right. I think that Trae Young, he's a selfish player, I think. Um, and for I think a team to have good chemistry and to be a championship caliber team, your best player needs to be the leader. And I think that Golden State Warriors
I,
are a prime example of that, right? Draymond, Steph Curry, they're probably the voices in the locker room, and you see the results that this team puts in every single year by winning championships. I don't think you get that from Trae Young. I would not be surprised, Katie, if he's not on the Atlanta Hawks next season, he does get traded in the offseason.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. But I think once the rumors are out too that you're not good in the locker room, I think that affects your trade value
Yeah,
a little bit, um, as well. And to your point too, I think that's what's made the Warriors so good. One, their core players, their big three, have been with the team for over 10 years, and they are you cannot underestimate culture in a locker room and what that does for teams. And yeah, if there's I don't want to use this word, but if there's a cancer in there, it's
sure.
really hard to win championships. So
Yeah.
we'll see what Quinn Snyder can do. He has been known to fix some problems in the past, but yeah, it's got to come from within for Trae Young.
Yeah, and again, I think there's a maturity thing to it as well, right? Like it
Yeah,
comes to a point where it kind of triggers in your head that it's not about me anymore. It's about the
yeah,
team winning championships and things like that. And again, like you mentioned, Quinn Snyder, when he was the head coach for the Utah Jazz, we heard rumors and read things about how Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert didn't get
yeah,
along. So it's not
yeah,
new territory for him. So hopefully he can fix it because they do have a lot of talent on that roster. But again, like we mentioned, I would not be surprised if Trae Young is not on the roster next season because they did a trade for DeJounte Murray, who could come in and take over as the guy for that
yeah.
team if they do decide to get rid of Trae Young.
Agreed. So, from a gambling perspective, when you read things like this and you kind of see the writing on the wall for Trae Young or for the Hawks, I was almost going to call them the Falcons. What? Wow, two birds actually in Atlanta for teams. I don't know why that just dawned on me. But from handicapping these games, are they kind of a stay away from you right now, because there's so many problems? I mean, obviously you can still look at the markets and try to exploit things here and
Mhm.
there, but are the Hawks someone that you kind of stay away from in these kind of situations?
I think the first game after they got a new head coach, or when they fired Nate McMillan, actually backed the Atlanta Hawks because
Yeah.
whether it was a disconnect between Trae Young and the head coach, or some maybe some other players with the head coach as well. Like you sometimes do see a boost when a coach does get fired, the team comes out and plays well, and I think they did that in the first game. For me, the Atlanta Hawks are, at least when they are at home and they're laying a lot of points, whether it's outside of two possessions, I tend to stay away from them.
Yeah.
But again, they're a team that when a new head coach comes in, the style and the philosophies do change as well, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
something that I want to keep in mind for the rest of the season. Is that, hey, are they playing faster? Are they slowing down? Are they putting up more points? Are they more defensive minded? So I think I'd take like a 5 to 6 game sample after a new head coach comes in and kind of make the adjustment there because the market, like you mentioned, probably is not going to catch up to that maybe as soon as a sharp better May.
Yeah, I mean, that's super smart. All right, Munaf, we're going to take a quick break and then come back for Capper's Corner. Spoiler alert, you're not going to win every bet that you place. But with Caesar Sportsbook, win or lose, every bet gives you reward credits and tier credits, which you can exchange for the best perks in the game. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. Download the Caesar Sportsbook app and start earning with Caesar's Rewards. Back on Moxie Bets here with Munaf Manji, and we are heading in to Capper's Corner. So we already talked a little bit about the Suns and what Kevin Durant can do for them tonight. So let's go ahead and look at some player props for this game. Is there one in particular that you've isolated for us?
Yeah, we'll talk about, like you mentioned, the Phoenix game. I'm going to go over to the other side for the Charlotte Hornets. They did lose their best player, LaMelo Ball, for the rest of the season with a fractured ankle. And I think the beneficiary of that is going to be Terry Rozier, their second guard. I'm going to go over on his points prop here tonight, 22 and a half. LaMelo Ball was having a great season. He was when
Yeah.
he was healthy, he was the number one option, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's a lot to fill in, or a lot of big shoes to fill in when he is out. And I think Terry Rozier can be the beneficiary of that. We've seen games with Terry Rozier where he's put up 25 plus points, I think 4, 5, 6 games in a row without LaMelo Ball in the lineup when he's missed some time this season. Now that we know for sure that LaMelo Ball is done for the season because of the ankle injury, I think now is the time for Terry Rozier to step up. I think 22 and a half right now is a little conservative here tonight, Katie. So I'm going to go with Terry
Yeah.
Rozier over 22 and a half points.
Okay, I love that. I'm looking at Devin Booker over 5.5 assists tonight. Interesting enough, this is at plus money, plus 114. So we talked about at the top of the show, Durant is going to be on restricted minutes. Not sure how even they're going to stagger him with their big three, with Booker and with CP3. And you already alluded to there's going to be an adjustment
Yeah.
period, right? It's a disruption to their normal routine. And the Hornets are likely going to set a fast tempo here in order to fit Durant into the offense. I do feel like Booker is going to be a good facilitator tonight. He's averaging already 5.7 assists per game. In the past 3 games, he's had at least 8 assists. So I can see him kind of being a little bit nervous, trying to figure out how to get Durant in, trying to be a facilitator, making sure that KD has a good game. So this 5.5 assists at plus money seems like a good bet to me.
Yeah, I like it. I like you mentioned that he's gone over this projection in 3 straight games, averaging 5.7 on the season. Last 3 games, 8, 8, and 9. So yeah, again, I think that you'll see, like we talked about with Kevin Durant having to get adjustment, that maybe CP3 feeds him the ball, maybe Devin Booker feeds him the ball just to kind of, get his feet wet again. And hopefully we know that KD can knock down the shot. So that's maybe a way that Devin Booker does rack up the assists. So at plus odds, especially, I love it.
I know. I mean, let's fire off on this one. So I'm always happy when you like the bets that I'm taking. And feel free to be like, Mox, I don't like that one as well. Don't be nice to me. All right, so let's look at the Knicks. How about those Knicks? I mean, they have come out previous before the All-Star break, and then after the All-Star break have just been balling, and they are taking on Durant's former team, the Nets, tonight at MSG. What's a prop you like for this one?
I'm gonna go over to the Knicks side here. I do like the starting center for this team, Mitchell Robinson, to go
Mm.
over on his rebounding prop here tonight. That number is currently sitting at 9.5 at around minus 103 over on Caesar Sportsbook. Mitchell Robinson did miss some time with, I believe it was, I want to say it was a finger or hand injury, but since he's come back in the 3 games, 12 rebounds, 13 rebounds, and 13 rebounds in those 3 games. Obviously, going over the projection of 9.5 here that is posted for tonight. But also keep in mind that this Brooklyn Nets team just hasn't been very good defending the center position or keeping the opposition off of the boards here. Over the course of the season, they're allowing opposing centers to grab 15.4 rebounds per game. Robinson has done it in 3 straight games here. I think that trend continues here tonight. I think he can easily get into 10 rebounds here. So I'm going to go over 9.5 rebounds for Mitchell Robinson.
Okay, I love that. I'm looking at Jalen Brunson, who's been like hit or miss. He's either having a monster game or not so much. I'm taking him under his 25.5 points tonight. That's at minus 125. So he's averaging under this mark in the last 5 games. In fact, the last 3 have ranged from 13 to 20. He did have a very high scoring stretch of about 4 games just ahead of the All-Star break, but he's kind of regressed back to his mean. At home, he's only averaging 24.4 points per game. And the Knicks, oddly, are not a very good home team. So I can see him right at 24. This 25.5 seems a little bit high to me because he just hasn't been scoring as much recently. So it's hit or miss. He's either going to blow through this or go under. Obviously, the under is juiced a little bit here to minus 125. So I'm going to lean that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're right when you talk about it's hit or miss with Jalen Brunson because he was in a stretch when, especially when RJ Barrett was injured for this team, where he was putting up easily 25 plus a night. It was almost 30 plus a night. But
Yeah.
with him being back in the lineup and how well Julius Randle's also been playing since the All Star break, it's like you want to
Oh,
continue feeding the hot hand in Julius Randle, right? So somebody's going to have to take a step back. And right now, that guy has been Jalen Brunson so far. So at 25 and a half on this underprice, again, it could turn into a blowout here as well because the Brooklyn Nets just haven't been very good since we came back from the All Star break. So, yeah, I like this one here as well. This was actually one I was considering as well until I saw you put it on the sheet.
okay, good. Yep, love it. All right, so Cavs versus the Celtics. Celtics, are the best team. Well, I don't know. I guess the Knicks are kind of coming up there, but traditionally, at least this season, the Celtics have been the best team, and the Cavs are kind of a frisky one. So, what's a prop you like here?
With another rebounding prop here. Time Lord Robert Williams for the Boston Celtics starting center.
What
I'm
do you
gonna go
call him?
over.
Time Lord?
They call him the Time Lord. I don't know the story behind it. I will find that for you. But again, this is another team like we talked about with the Brooklyn Nets that just kind of struggles keeping the opposing center off the glass. Trying to pull it up right now here what Cleveland has been giving up to the center on the season. So yeah, they're giving up about 15.5 rebounds to that center position. And over
Oh,
the last four career games against the Cleveland Cavaliers, Robert Williams has been in double digit rebounding numbers. He's at 11, 6, 16, and 14. So I
wow,
think
and
this
it's
number,
that seems low.
yeah. Yeah, it does seem low, right? And I think that he can have some success here tonight against this Cleveland Cavaliers team. I think this game will be closer than people think. But
Yeah.
at 8.5, I like this number to get over. And on the season, excuse me, at home, he's averaging 9.5 rebounds per game. So at 8.5, I'm going to take this over.
100% easy money on that one. I'm going to tell that one with you. I'm looking at Jason Tatum. I'm taking him over the 27 and a half points. It's at minus 109. So Tatum across the season averages at least 30 points per game. And he has been on a bit of a cold streak. In fact, he's failed to reach 20 in the last two games. So to me, this line feels like a little overreaction. He goes cold for a couple games, and now we're dropping him down to 27 and a half. Unlike the Knicks, the Celtics are actually very strong at home, and Tatum's production should increase. He averages about 31 points per game at home versus just 28 away. And the Cavs also rank 24th in 3-point defense. And so that's something that Tatum should be able to exploit and get back in his bag. Now, the 3-point prop for him was a little high at 3.5. I don't know that I see him getting 4, but I can see him at least getting 3. And I think he gets back into his groove tonight. I'm going to take him over this 27.5.
It seemed like he used up all his juice in the All Star game where he dropped 55 points and kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
came out flat.
That's an interesting thing too. So we had to use because you look at Dame Lillard, right? That dropped the 71, and then what did he have last night? 25 or something a little bit lower. So I think when you
Yeah.
do use all of your you got to take a couple games off.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I can look in the last game. I think it was against the New York Knicks where he just had a rough shooting night. I expect they're coming off a 3-game road trip as well, right? So, yeah, I expect him to bounce back here tonight. Jason Tatum is just one of those guys where when he does have a bad shooting night, typically he does respond in a big way in the following night. And like you mentioned, they are at home tonight against Cleveland, where he's averaging 31.5 points at home. So yeah, I mean, he is in the running for MVP. I know Nikola Jokic is running away with it, but I think he does bounce back in a big way here tonight.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about the Joker. I mean, he's just phenomenal. It's just 3 years in a row. I don't know when the last time that someone has won 3 MVPs in a row, but he's just ridiculous. I mean, double doubles, triple doubles, like all the time.
He just makes it
All the
look
time.
so effortless. And now, Katie, we question if he's going to get a triple double by the halftime, let alone the full game.
Yeah, it's right. It's just so crazy. Okay, let's look at the Magic versus the Bucks. What do you think about this game? Any props you like?
Yeah, I was looking at this game going over to the side of the Orlando Magic. I'll give you a plus money one here. I'm going to go with Wendell Carter Jr. double double at plus 190 here tonight.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and if you kind of take a look at Wendell Carter Jr., what he's done against this team against the Milwaukee Bucks, excuse me, he's had double doubles. I think I want to say in 3 games in a row against the squad. He's had, let's see, in an earlier matchup this season, or sorry, going back to last season, he's had 14 and 10, 19 and 10, 8 and 10. So he's getting the rebounds. It's just a matter of him getting the points here tonight. And again, this is another team, the Milwaukee Bucks, that do struggle against the center position. So we're not sure if Giannis and maybe some of the stars are going to play here tonight for the Milwaukee Bucks, because they did play last night in Brooklyn. So maybe they take a night off here, but I think this is a good game for Wendell Carter Jr. to record a double-double here. So I'm going to take that one at plus 190 right now.
Plus 190. I love it. So when I was looking at this game earlier this morning, there were not a lot of props available. In fact, there was only one person that I could bet on. And so I have bet on him. Banchero under 19 and a half points at minus 131. So he's been struggling as of late. I mean, he did kind of have a little get back game there, dropping 29 points for the first time since I believe January 30th. But overall, he's averaging just 16.6 points per game in his last 11 starts. He's been hitting the under on 8 of those occasions. The Bucks possess the NBA's 4th best scoring defense, so I feel like it's still going to be a little struggle for him, even if some of those big guys aren't in tonight. Obviously, if Giannis isn't there, then that's going to be one thing. But Paolo Banchero, under 19 and a half points tonight.
This was a player at the beginning of the season, Katie, where he was just automatically going over. He was getting 20 plus without effort.
Yeah. Front runner. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like he's like cool, like he's regressed, like we've talked about. And against this, again, Milwaukee Bucks team that I expect Wendell Carter Jr. to have a big night tonight. So someone, again, is going to probably have to take a step back, which is probably going to be Paolo Banchero here tonight. And again, Milwaukee is a pretty good defensive team. I know he had 20 points in the game earlier this season against the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, again, with a half a point, with the recent struggles that he has been having, I can see him, being in the realm of 16 to 17 points here tonight.
Banchero, I think at Banchero.
I don't know what it is. We're gonna have to call and find out what it is, because I've heard people say Banchero. I don't know. We'll have to call and find out.
Who knows? Whatever, Paolo. Okay, so looking at the Grizzlies versus the Rockets, I know you are a Houston native. The Grizzlies, I think, are the most hated team, unless you're living in Memphis. And it's just well, did you see what Dylan Brooks was wearing the other night, first of all? And my friend Kaz tweeted out that wrestling fans are used to looks like that, which, yes, in the WWE, I would expect someone to dress like that. It's a little bit weird for the NBA. And, they're just kind of like the bad boys, but they have nothing to back it up with. They've got no trophies in their trophy case. And their social media team is kind of interesting too. They tweeted out last night, hold that L. And they had a picture of Shannon Sharp for the Lakers. When it's LeBron wasn't playing. It's whatever. I guess when you don't really have big wins to stack up, you got to take your wins while you can. But they just irritate me. The Grizzlies are an annoying team to me. But one, what are your thoughts on that? And two, what's a prop you like for Grizzlies and Rockets?
200%. I agree with you about the Memphis Grizzlies. You have a participation trophy for getting into the playoffs. I mean, that's John Moran, most improved player last year. I mean, that's what I don't know.
Not afraid of anybody in the West. You don't do well against the West. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Yeah.
I don't like them either, Katie. I love John Moran as a player, but all the talking that they do, you have nothing, like you said, they have nothing to back it up against. So,
yeah. All right. So what do you think prop wise?
I don't root for people to fail, but I just hate Memphis. But prop wise,
same.
Yeah, I put myself in misery every single night watching this Rockets team because they are the worst in the league. But I still got to support them and watch them. They are atrocious defending the 3-point line, Katie. Coming back, I think it was the first game against your Warriors. Klay Thompson dropped 12 3-pointers against them. The 71-point game, Damian Lillard had 13 threes in that game. And then last night against Denver, Jamal Murray had 5, and then Michael Porter Jr. had 3. So there's kind of a theme here. I'm going to go with Desmond Bane here. This number, I'm surprised to see it at 2.5. It's a little bit juiced at -130, -137. So if you want to buy this number up, maybe ladder it up. I think Desmond Bain has a big game here tonight, at least from behind the 3-point line. So I'm taking over 2.5 3-point shots meant for Desmond Bain. I may ladder this up to 3.5 or even 4.5 to get some nice plus money odds as well.
I love this. And again, when I was looking at this game, it was off the board. There was no props available except for first basket props. And so you can, shop around for this one. It's not available on every single book. As much as I don't like Memphis, I'm going to take Jaren Jackson for the first basket, plus 475. And so Memphis has been on a hot streak. They've been the first team to score on 67% of the times in their last 10 games. Jackson is their jumper, winning 75% of tips within that span. And if you look at Houston, they've been a little bit of a cold streak. They've only scored on 33% of the tip, and 33% of tips they've won, and they've only scored on 51% of first baskets. So it seems to me like Memphis has been scoring first. Jaren Jackson has been getting the tips, plus 475. These are crapshoots. You never know. But given the statistics, I feel like it's, let's try it.
When our starting center can barely jump 2 inches off the ground, Katie, I do think Memphis will win the tip here, and maybe they go down. John Morant throws him an alley hoop, and you cash your nice plus 475 odds bet here. So yeah, you're right. It's a crapshoot, but they're always fun to bet on. I've always found it so interesting, Katie. I'm sure you've seen this on Twitter as well. Is where these guys are parlaying first basket like props, like 3 or 4, and they actually win for like an incredible amount. It's crazy.
It's like sometimes you try to be a smart bettor, right? You research everything, you look at the statistics, you try to put your best foot forward, and then some people are just throwing darts at the wall, and those are the ones. But also, there's so many of those that lose. It's just on social media that we see the 1 in a million that end up hitting, and you just see them a lot more often. Like, I would like to see how many of those first basket parlays have been entered in all of the sports books for that day, and maybe one hit out of 100,000 or whatever it was. So but it is kind of like, God, it's never me. But maybe someday. It's like also I feel the same way about the lottery.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe one day we'll get one.
Maybe one day. All right, maybe it's today. Maybe it's today. I'm going to do a first basket parlay on here. Time now to head into Mox Locks. Can be any bet that you love today. It can be one that you've already given out on this show. Munaf, what is your first lock of the day?
Yeah, I'll give you some totals here. First one, I'm going to go with the Detroit Pistons team total under 108.5. And I just don't understand this number, Katie. Coming out of the All-Star break, we know that the Detroit Pistons are one of the worst teams right down there with the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs. They're in that chase for Victor Wembanyama to get that number 1 pick. But if you kind of take a look at what they've done over their last couple games here, they have scored 106, 91, and 106. I know Chicago has been one of the better defensive teams, at least over the last 10 games. I know they picked up Patrick Beverley, who kind of gives them a little bit more defensive intensity. And they also are missing a lot of players, are the Detroit Pistons, some of their main scorers. So I think that this game is going to be a low-scoring game. I just don't see a world where Detroit Pistons get into the realm of 109 or 110 points here tonight, especially when they haven't done it in several games. So I'm going to go with Pistons team total under 108.5 in this game.
Munaf, I love this one because it is very complimentary to my bet. And it's kind of ugly to take the Bulls -6, but if they're going to cover this number, it's probably against the Pistons. And you already laid out a lot of reasons, but if you just look at them against the spread in their last 10 games, they're just 2-8. They're on a 5-game losing skid. Their cover rate has been a little bit better within those 5 games, 3 and 5. But if you look at who they played against, it's also bad teams. Orlando twice, Toronto. The Bulls are decent. And I think this is a good bounce back spot for them to kind of nix their 5-game road losing streak. The Pistons are covering at a very sad 22% as underdogs this season. And as home dogs, they're just 10, 15, and 1. And they're also really bad in divisional games, 1-7-1 against the spread. So again, laying 6 with the Bulls seems like a lot for this team that's been on a little bit of a skid, but I don't know who's worse than the Pistons right now. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that 6 points.
I'm going to give you a little pop quiz here. Over the last 13 games between the Bulls and the Pistons, how many times do you think the Pistons have won a game in those last 13 games against the Bulls?
In the last 13?
Yeah, head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go on the lower side here. So let's say they won 5.
0.0. The Bulls have won the last
0.
13 head-to-head matchups between these two teams.
All right. Well, then, 5 was generous. 5 was generous. Yeah. Okay. So hammer the 6 all day long and take the Pistons under their team total. No way they're getting to 110. All right. What's your next lock of the day?
Yeah, I'll go with another total here. We talked about the Rockets and how just atrocious they've been. I'm going to go with the over here tonight. Currently saw that at 230 between the Grizzlies and the Rockets here tonight in Houston. Look, there's no secret. The Rockets are one of the worst, if not at least by the record, the worst team in the whole association. And they just don't commit on the defensive side of the basketball. They did get Jalen Green back last night, which does help the scoring for the Houston Rockets. Maybe Kevin Porter Jr. plays here tonight as well for the Rockets. But this Memphis team, we talked about it. I think they need to really stack up the wins as well. They're right now the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. The Sacramento Kings, I believe, are only 1.5 games behind them. So I expect everybody to play here tonight for the Memphis Grizzlies. And again, I think we'll see a back and forth here. The pace last night, especially in the Rockets game, was at a very high intensity. And, Denver was able to make shots. I think that the Memphis Grizzlies here tonight will be able to finish at the rim, whether it's with Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and then I think guys like Desmond Bane will be able to knock down their 3-point shots here tonight. And I think the Rockets will do enough to keep up with its scoring as well to push this over the total of 230.
I love that. What do you think of the spread on this game? Memphis laying 10. I feel like the Rockets potentially could cover.
There was a conversation in a group chat last night that somebody said, I want to bet the Rockets. And I told them, you're better off just flushing your money down the toilet if you want to do that. But
all right.
Yeah, don't. This Rockets
lay off.
Yeah. Stay away.
Double because the Memphis Grizzlies haven't been that good at covering as of late. Okay, so I'm going to look at the Knicks, and normally I take the Knicks in the first half. They're one of the best first half teams in the NBA right now, but I'm actually going to take them first quarter tonight. So they're not the number 1, but they are top 5 in first quarter against the spread. As far as their record is 20-10-1 at home in the first quarter against the spread. And when you look at their starting 5 per 100 possessions, they're scoring 124 and allowing just 113.8. They have a plus 10 net rating across 885 possessions. So I feel like we already talked about the Nets, probably not doing that great tonight. I feel like the Knicks are going to come out really strong in that first quarter and probably the first half. I love Knicks first half as well, but I'm going to take them first quarter -3 and really dig deep into their top 5.
Yeah, I think we'll see some tired legs here tonight from the Brooklyn Nets. I believe this is a third game in 4 nights as well. And, many NBA bettors know that teams that are playing that third night in 4 nights, you kind of do want to fade them. But last 10 games on the road for the Brooklyn Nets in that first quarter, they're 2-7-1 against the spread. So right now, the Knicks, we talked about it. They're a wagon right now. They're playing well. They're covering games. They're winning. So I expect a strong effort here tonight from the Knicks, just right from the get-go out of the gate. So I talked about this with some other friends. This might be a spot where you might just want to take the Knicks first quarter, first half, and the full game. I just think they're just playing really well.
Ooh. Yeah, maybe parlay that together, and that could be one of my big wins for the season. All right, Munaf, always such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Munaf is the co-host of Sports Gambling Podcast Network's NBA, MLB, Props, and NFL podcasts. He's also a contributor on Action Network. You can follow him on Twitter at SportsNerd824. That's for Kobe Bryant. I asked him the last time that he was here. Make sure you find him on sgpn.com as well. Munaf, you are the best. Good luck on your bets tonight.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
All right. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time.